Yeah, I'm Brian Gansereit. My wife and I own Sunflower Studio. We have a yoga studio and a personal training studio. We've been doing that collectively, all put together in one form or another for about 10 years. We're located down in South Overland Park, about 148th and Metcalf down there. And COVID was a huge transition for us, so that's how the business evolved to the next level. So we got there.
You've been doing it for how long?
My wife's been personal training for 10 years now, and she's been doing that out of our home at one point, out of our garage. It's kind of progressed as things have gone. I've been teaching yoga for about a year now and left the corporate job and transitioned into being in business, which wasn't the first time in business for me, but being back in business for myself. And yoga is the vehicle and probably the best one I've ever found. So.
Nice. So you've been doing that full time for about a year? You
Started in this last fall, actually, right in the height of all this COVID craziness. Laid off from the corporate job.
kind of got forced into it,
Yeah, we were essential workers until we weren't essential,
right?
right? So uh, at that point, it actually came to be that my wife and I were going through a photo shoot, because I'm also a photographer and we do some fitness photography at the studio now. But she was going through a yoga practice, and I've got some injuries from the Army in my knee and my back and everything. And I was just having a hard time getting up and down and moving around doing that. And I think COVID became a big opportunity for me because I never would have gone into a studio not knowing anything about yoga. Just a lot of guys, we have that mentality. We're not going to go in there with 30 people that know everything that's going on. So I started practicing at home, and I went from not being able to touch my toes to just being able to move the body the way it was supposed to be moved. And when I saw that healing in myself and just how much it changed my life, I was like, that's it, and it just developed from there. So that kind of tied into both Beth and I's mission of you want to change the world. Most of us have some piece of that in us. You get old enough, I'm 49 now, that you realize you probably can't do that all by yourself. So the biggest leverage, the biggest vehicle I could do that is just by improving the way other people live their lives and the quality of life and the enjoyment of life, the calm, the physical healing, all of that put together, and them being able to use their gifts and get out and leverage all of that in the world, was just a way that's like, okay, well, we can magnify this to a higher power than I could ever do by myself.
And you mentioned that transition was kind of peak COVID. I mean, what did that look like?
Yeah, that it was interesting. So we definitely went ground up. Don't ever let a lack of resources stop you. Anybody that's thinking about being in business for yourself. I actually started teaching by the lake down in Lewisburg, Kansas, once a week down there. And I had one beautiful student that would show up to start with, and you've got to really steel your intestines to brace, going from scratch like this. And then it was two, and then it was three, and it built to a decent number. Got called back to the corporate job at one point, balanced that as long as we could. We decided to part ways, and then Beth and I leaned in full force into opening the studio. And to be honest with you, it's kind of a weird decision of looking for a place just to continue hosting yoga, running into dead ends, because you're asking somebody else to do a favor for you, which, if we can, I'd like to get back to that in a minute. But, just having the opportunity to grow your business, and next thing you knew, we were signing a lease and opening the studio and just rolling forward. So
How fresh is the physical space? How long? Ago did you do
April
that?
1st we opened.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
not super long then.
Right, we did a soft open then. I went through a pretty sizable surgery, so we closed for a couple of weeks. And well, I slowed down for about 3 days. The doctors asked it was 2 weeks, but we did that, and we've just been trying to build it since. To be perfectly frank, I know a lot of people like to just be all roses and sunshine. It's a very difficult process in this environment, very slow. It seems like May, everybody was dealing with graduation stuff and life getting kind of back to normal. June, I think everybody figured out they could go on vacation and did. So they
Right.
all left. So here we are, the other side of the 4th of July, hoping that, everything starts to come together. So,
Right, right. So, and as far as your studio space goes, and again, I'm gonna nitpick weird details because I think
yeah,
some
please
people
do.
find some things interesting. As far as your studio space goes, did you find like an existing space, a dance studio or something like that that was kind of fitted out for with the wood floors or whatever, or did you do a bunch of renovations on it?
No, and I don't think anything's by accident, but we ended up finding a space that was up for lease, a commercial space in a strip mall, and it was bare concrete floors. The plaster was just plaster. They had redone one of the walls because there's a CrossFit gym next door, so there's a little bit of noise stuff going on. And went in there, and she was eager to lease it, and just an amazing human being. Gave us a little bit of a budget for the flooring, so I learned how to put hardwood floor down. I've
Nice.
never done that, so
Yeah.
but it's kind of cool. You got some sweat equity in
Right.
it, and it saves you a lot of money when you start looking at the invoices and you have to pick your battles.
Right.
So that got the walls painted, and the beautiful thing about the yoga studios, there wasn't a whole lot of equipment to buy. There's not a whole lot to bring into it to start with, so.
Right.
From that perspective, it just getting it to cash flow enough to pay your bills is your first survival goal, and you can go down on different rabbit holes on which way to look at that. Is it a number on dollars? Is it a number on members? Whatever, but just trying to figure that out.
So I have just enough to be dangerous as far as experience goes in
Okay.
real estate and stuff like that. You mentioned she was kind of eager to get it filled out. Did she? And I'm not going to ask you numbers, but did she give you a deal? Did she, as far as your lease term, or is it kind of a standard like, hey, here's the amount, and it's going to be an X year lease, or was it kind of more of a flexible like, hey, we'll help you, hope it goes well?
There was some flexibility there. There were commercial agents involved on both sides. Personally, I would have preferred just dealing with her, but that's just not the way it worked out. I would say overall it ended up being fairly flexible. She had a number in mind per square foot that she charges. We were okay with that number, negotiated for the flooring. Our studio's a little different. We've got the walls all painted black. It's a very, subdued kind of place in there. So there was that, you wanted to make the podcast about real skills for business. And honestly, that's one is don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid at all to ask. And you're wanting something from them, but they're wanting something from you as well. And if that place doesn't work out, you'll find another one. So
And they know that, and
Right.
especially in the people always throw around the climate of the whatever COVID this and that, but it's true that they're just as eager, if not more eager, to get you in that space than you are to find any space. So,
Oh, absolutely. They're still being taxed on it. They still have maintenance on it all day long. So, having an occupied space. And I think we had one thing going for us is we came to terms with the noise of the neighbor, where I think the last occupant, and I don't know this for sure, but I think that was kind of the motivation for them to move along.
right.
And we've just found a way around it, and it works for us. So, I think we were kind of a unique fit that came together at the right time for both parties. So,
Right. And was that like a physical? Did you install a wall with soundproofing, or is it at different times, or?
well, we kind of overcame it by she did put an extra wall in there before we ever talked to her about it for some soundproofing, and it's reasonably okay. You can still hear people shouting next door. You can hear weights dropping. But what I've found is we've got a dual AC system in there. Turn the fans to on. Turn your music on. You've got enough white noise, and really it kind of brought back something from my early yoga practices too, where I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old daughter running through this small apartment we were in at the time while you're trying to practice yoga, and being able to just live that yourself of letting go of distraction, and then honestly be able to carry that over your clients is valuable. And nobody, I think it was a bigger thing in my mind, a bigger worry than anybody that's been in it, to enjoy the classes. So.
Right. Yeah. So doesn't look like it'll be an issue.
No, not at all. They're great neighbors. There's a new Thai restaurant going in right next to us, so hopefully that's more foot traffic. There was a Mexican restaurant when we signed the lease, and COVID took them out of the game, so that was some of the foot traffic we were counting on. So that was another surprise. So I would just say, definitely be prepared for any surprises like that to pop up,
So something I'm going to be really good at in every episode I ever do here is being super ignorant of what the people do and trying to pretend and
Okay.
relate. But I would assume that it operates on like a per class basis. So you're open during blank to blank during these days when you're physically hosting a class. You had mentioned foot traffic, which was what kind of spawned this, or maybe start thinking about it. Um, I guess signage on the door and phone numbers and websites would be how you'd kind of capture those people that walk by it and happen to see it, or
Right. We don't have, so one thing to consider if you're going to sign a lease like this, and in a little detail we forgot, since this is a piece of a formerly existing space, like that Mexican restaurant used to be our space and the restaurant that existed before the one that left. So there were only so many spots out on the marquee sign on the road. We don't get one.
oh,
Right. So we got some really beautiful vinyl graphics from a company, a local franchise of Fast Signs. Did a great job. This sun resistant, black background, big bold, logo of ours with yoga with Thor's hammer in the middle. You can't miss it. I mean, it just is what it is for our Viking yoga brand. So that was great, and that was early spring, and then all the trees bloomed. You couldn't see that so much from the road.
yeah.
So we had a roadside, just like a little yard sign out there that a lot of the clients said that's how they found us. Somebody decided they needed it more than us, so we're going to do that again in a different version.
Gosh.
But that brought traffic. We've done a lot of digital marketing. I've got some kind of hard lessons learned there, maybe a little callousness towards some of the entities that are involved in all of that. You can really throw a lot of money down the drain quickly. So.
Yeah, and so that's what I do is I do media marketing. Obviously, we're a
Okay.
creative agency, and you wouldn't believe the number of people who I talk to, and that's kind of the first thing out of their mouth is like, well, I paid X amount of money to this company before, and I got burned, and they'll have just real horrible things to say about like SEO specifically is one that pops up. I pay this company so much to get me on Google, and I'm not on there, and so it's like on top of being able to like provide my services and make that sale initially, whatever, I'm like battling the mistakes that the past company has made with the client, and it's so I hear it all the time. I get it.
Yeah, for us, it wasn't so much a company that we hired. It was Facebook and Google and me deciding to learn the hard way on what to do and not to do and
Right.
what works and what doesn't work. I think our brand awareness is great with the money we spent. But then you learn, like a lesson recently with the most recent Google campaign that we had, you better have a call to action with a cutoff date, because I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on Facebook and there was no sense of urgency. It was just, here's this, here's that, here's this. And everybody knew who we were, but there was no call to action. And you kind of forget as the business owner that you're all focused in on, I have to have people in here that I can serve and provide value to, and we make a great exchange. But everybody else is in their life doing their things. So unless you make it urgent to them and make it, something that they have to take action on, you can just light money on fire with advertising. So
When people's attention spans are microscopic, so even if you're lucky, someone will screenshot the ad or write down your
Yep.
website, bookmark it, whatever. But if you don't get them to and this isn't obviously always the case, but if you don't get them to commit right then and there, just like you said, in some incentive to like, hey, you got to do this now, you can't do it later, they'll forget about it. And the fear is that you have paid to plant the seed in their mind of, hey, you want to do yoga. Well, then they'll remember 3 months down the line, oh, I want to do yoga. And, you'll be very lucky if they remember the name of the company they saw with the ad. They'll just get on, yoga company, Overland Park, whatever it is, and you got to hope that you're up there. So,
absolutely, absolutely. And I would highly recommend that anybody talk to you if you're an expert on that. But Google is by far my favorite. I don't understand all the different levels that you can go into, but I know what really changed my mind. There was a guy on YouTube, and I can't remember his name right now, does a lot of marketing and business talk, and I'm a podcast junkie, hence here we are, right? So he said something that just smacked me in the face that was so obvious. He's like, people don't go on Facebook to make a buying decision. They go on there to snoop on their neighbors and argue politics with their high school, people they went to high school with. It's like, where do you go to make a buying decision every time you get on Google? And it was just so profoundly true to me that I go to Google Maps anytime I want to find something to buy or service. And so that switched it. And then he had other stuff about how to properly use Facebook and Instagram, which was great. But I think, like, if I had a limited pile to use, it's going to Google.
Yeah.
And signage, and obviously those are two big things we spent money on. But I think, maybe I don't jump ahead too far here, but personal referrals has really been where the core of our business has grown. So
That's what we found too. We've tried anything and everything. I've done this for 10 plus years, so I've tried anything I possibly could. And somebody explained something to me, and they said, what you're doing is, hunt, kill, eat. And it's basically me going out and finding an individual person, spending all this time, killing them, trying to make that sale, and then I eat for however long, a week, because I got that paycheck. And she said, it's not sustainable. It's very similar to pay per click. So you're not to get into a marketing lesson, but you're kind of two types of Google advertising, or SEO and pay per click. SEO is that organic ranking. If somebody searches for, bakery Lenexa, if you're a baker, you want to be the one that pops up. Pay per click is, to really kind of boil it down to its most simple form, it's bidding on clicks for a term. So pay per click, Yoga Overland Park, whatever, and you'd bid 25 cents a click, and you'd hope that nobody outbids you, and you're the one that pops up on top. But it's, I don't know. I could go on and on about it, but it's what we found is it ends up being our most trying to think of how to gracefully discuss it, because I don't want to rag on anyone, but what we'll find is the clients we are most pleased with and that pay the most are ones that are referrals from clients that we've liked, that have been pleasant to work with.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, if you find that you work with John Smith and he was super happy with it, whatever, the people that John Smith keeps in his circle that he's going to recommend to you are going to be the same. They're going to pay similar because they're just in similar points in their life and business. And it's word of mouth, and it's tricky because that's bad advice to give somebody is, how do I get business? Oh, word of mouth. But I guess,
okay, how's that work? Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I guess if you have to fill in the blanks, it's, ensure that you're treating your customers right and everyone's super happy, and come up with this obnoxious plan of, follow-ups and thank yous and whatever, it's cards or messages or what, it's word of, don't sleep on word of mouth. I guess I'm agreeing with you. Is
Right. You can't just sit and hope for that to happen either.
Right. And that's, that's another huge thing that people do is they'll, if it's, what movie is it? Signs, where they say if you build it, they will come.
Something like
that, right? And it's not true. It's you can't, it doesn't
Field
matter.
of dreams, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good, your product or your service is, how beautiful your website is, your branding, how great your storefront is, how prime the location is, for the most part. It's you gotta put in the work, and I don't think a lot of people do that.
That's so true. It's so true. I know that our product is good. Our referrals, like you asked back in the beginning, how the yoga started to go. A lot of private clients originally, and those came as referrals from my wife's personal training clients, because she literally changed their lives. She deals with people with chronic illness, people that don't want that big gym thing. They just want to live a better life, and she's done such a great job at it, and then was able to refer some of them as private yoga clients, because you do actually need both the strength training and the flexibility and different type of strength training that yoga brings. So it was just a natural fit for us. But if we hadn't had her original business, there wouldn't have been any traction at all. But I think where I was trying to go with that is not to sound cocky or anything, but I know that the people that have come in and enjoyed our classes have loved it. That's just not enough, though. You have to be able to draw more people in, and figuring out that piece of business. It's interesting to me. I hope it doesn't defeat anybody else, because it's an interesting game trying to be the marketer, trying to be the person that's cleaning the floors. This is the typical business story, right? You're doing all these things. I do all of our website work, all of that stuff. But definitely, I think I would say lean on experts. And, if you can't, if you don't have a huge budget, provide value. We've done a lot of trade on things that have led to more business as well. So just never think, I forget who it was. It was just an amazing quote recently. Um, Name is going to come to me after we get done with the interview here. But he's like, don't worry about how many resources you have. Be resourceful. And you always have another way to, to make something happen. And just taking that step back and breathing and just, I get accused of the constant iterations, but that's what it takes. You just have to constantly be willing to not just grind, but grind and step back and breathe. Grind and step back and breathe has been my experience. So
Yeah. And this is going to downplay a lot of people's struggles, and that's not my intention. But the thing that separates, people who succeed and people who don't is just like effort. There's a million things that go into it. Sometimes, things just don't work out. Sometimes something catastrophic happens. You have to bring something to the table initially, but a lot of it is simply just, like you said, just doing it and trying it again and reevaluating and whatever. There's always a million reasons not to do something, and I feel like a lot of people, will encounter one hurdle or one bad week or some stress, and they'll allow that to be the reason they have failed or whatever. And it's I don't know if it's just how people are built and wired, or if it's something they need to be really taught and reassured of. But
well, I think we all have our unfair advantages. Another thing that I've stolen from somewhere that I listened to, but it's true. Everybody likes to look at. You could pick on Jeff Bezos. Oh my God, look what he. Well, I guarantee you it wasn't easy,
right.
in the beginning, and I guarantee you he had his top five. Oh man, shouldn't have done that moments,
Right.
all the way through it. But yeah, it's just that being willing to get back up and do it every day. I think our unfair advantage. Yoga brings you back from the edge, So if you're teaching 5 to 6 hours of yoga a day, it's easy to kind of stay calm,
Right.
So there's the unfair advantage, but you might have the unfair advantage of finances. That doesn't mean that you're going to win right away.
Right.
You could, that actually scares me more, would be having an unlimited supply of money to set on fire and not know where to put it properly. So whatever your unfair advantage is and wherever you think you have a disadvantage, they may not be the things, or they may not be the way you perceive them.
Right. Well, and I saw some video the other day. It was a TikTok, and it was going over 5 of the billionaires or whatever, and it was saying, everyone. It was mocking it. It was saying everyone always parrots, the just do it, just try, whatever. And then it went through this list of people that said, and I can't remember a single one of them, but it was Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. All these people who, oh, this person's family owned this, and this person was given $250,000, and all this and that, and like, valid and true, but I think people are in this kind of day and age where people are really looking for reasons why they can't succeed. It's this kind of, and I don't want to get into it too much, but I was going to say this kind of pity party thing, but it really is. Everyone looks at everyone else, and I think it's because they're conditioned. They're told this, and they hear about it, about all the people that fail, or why the people that succeeded for reasons that maybe were not the case. But I guess my suggestion to anyone listening would be, don't, I'll put it like that. I was going to say, don't let anyone convince you can't do things. There's a Steve Jobs quote, and I try not to reference Steve Jobs and stuff. I like Apple, I like all that stuff, but it's kind of,
I couldn't tell. You've got the old original Mac that my dad had as
Right.
a kid out here. Yeah.
but it gets out, overused, whatever. But there's a really, really cool quote, and if I can remember, I'll link it in the description. Where Steve Jobs is at Next, and if you don't know that whole story, it's really interesting. It's where he was, fired from Apple, and he started another super successful company, and that's what like the Mac computers are built on today, was the software he built at Next. Anyway, he's saying, there's a day you'll realize that every single thing around you that you see, everything you touch, you see, you smell, you hear, whatever, is built by somebody that is no smarter than you. Mm-hmm. And, the day you realize that is the day that your life changes. And it's true. And again, that's, my goal in this show is to be super relatable and realistic. And I say that with that in mind, that, there's exceptions. I can't go build a rocket, probably. I could.
You might be able to assemble the people that can.
Right, and you can get there if you have a goal. You can get there, but it's every single thing, every millionaire around you, billionaire. I get it. There's exceptions. Their family had influence. They knew people. They were in government. They had a loan, whatever. But if you went and met, I'm 29. If I went and met 29-year-old, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, whatever it was, like, I would bet in a lot of ways we were pretty darn similar. Mm-hmm. We had the same similar mannerisms, similar fears, similar hobbies, whatever it is, everything around you, all the, walk down the road and look at the, the bakery and the pizza shop and the computer repair store and the, whatever it is, like there's nothing stopping you from doing that. The only, for the most part, overall, the only thing stopping you is yourself and I guess the people around you that want to tell you you can't, which is even worse and should be even more motivation to try.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly say cut those people off if you're going anywhere, because the whole crabs in a bucket mentality of people trying to pull you down to where they're comfortable in their misery is absolutely true. And that's family, quote unquote friends, etc. We'll just leave that one where it's at. It's true. Get ready for it if you're going into business. But I really want to zoom in on what you started that whole part about was looking for reasons why you can't. And I'll bring yoga back into it. If your direction and your focus is focused on reasons why you can't, you're going to be absolutely right. You're not going to. Mm-hmm. So good luck. You fulfilled the prophecy that you built for yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a constant battle, is just keeping your focus and attention on, okay, well, that didn't work. What can I do?
Right.
And we've got a wall of struggle. I'm not going to tell you everything's wonderful fine, but just keep going.
Right.
And it doesn't matter as long as don't lose focus on why you're doing it. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a ton of books written about that word right there, why, and some of them I really love. But if you hold that close and express that in the value that you're giving to people and don't focus on why you can't do it, you're on the right path.
Right. And I think that's sound like to beat a dead horse. I think that's like my primary goal for the show is to talk to real people with real struggles that, over time you'll start to hear these stories about, like, yeah, this thing sucked. This thing was really hard. We messed up in this way. And it's like, it's like the social media thing, the Instagram thing. It's like you only see everyone's best version of themselves, and it's all
Yeah.
fake and insincere. And even a lot of these business podcasts that I've tried to listen to, it was just people, not lying, but, omitting their struggles.
Yeah, why would you want to? That's the most valuable part.
Right. Well, everyone wants to be an influencer, and in order to do that, you have to gain some sort of respect. And I guess people do that by being, this perfect image. But it's, knowing what I know. If you're actually in business and you're doing it, you see people fail, yourself fail all the time. You know that seeing these people, after a while, you start to see, behind the curtain, and it's that. Again, like the Steve Jobs thing. These people are no different than you. Like they're just really good at hiding stuff, and that's to kind of sum up my rambling is I want this podcast to kind of demonstrate to people that, like, hey, it's okay if you're goofing up. Like everyone's goofing up. That's the normal part, and don't let that discourage you because you're not seeing it all around you, because it's happening in every single That was a really eye-opening thing for me. So in my day-to-day, we do marketing, so we kind of get, we get people to kind of, let us in, and we kind of learn things about people, and they get comfortable with us, mm-hmm. and we start to learn about the struggles. There's not a single business on the planet. Go drive down Metcalf, Quivira, whatever, and look at any one business. That business has struggles. Like there's something on someone's mind in there about, something going wrong every single day. Like there's no finely tuned, perfect running machine. The biggest corporations are still, there's somebody within that company that is panicking about something, and something has gone wrong. And it's, and that's okay. And your goal is obviously to have as little of that as possible, but know that it's there. And if it's happening to you, that's okay. Like it's happening to every single person on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say that our resiliency in this business is, and I wouldn't say just like put yourself in jeopardy, but from catastrophic fails in the past builds that resilience,
Yeah.
And you don't go seeking it out, but take the lessons and get the value out of it, move along, don't make that mistake again.
Right. Well, and it's like, I learned this with my siblings. I was in a unique position where I was in my mid-20s and my siblings were, 15 or so, 16. And I thought, man, I have this opportunity to kind of give them these life lessons, just tell them in layman's, like, hey, don't worry about this in high school. This doesn't matter. Make friends with as many people as you can, blah, 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 blah. Stop getting in fights, whatever it is. And it's, what I found when I tried to do that was they, plugged their ears, and I thought, oh, is it because I'm too old? Whatever. Like I'm very relatable to them, with them, whatever. And it's no, you have to goof yourself to learn. It doesn't matter. Someone can come down from the sky and give you this perfect advice about, hey, don't do this and do this. And you'll say, "Yeah, nah, like I know better, whatever."
Right.
And you got to figure, and that kind of ties back into what we were saying is you got to make those mistakes. They're going to happen. They're super normal. Like, and that's how you're going to learn is you're going to goof a bunch. You're going to upset people and ruin things and ruin relationships. And, you got to kind of screw up once to not screw up in that same way in the future.
Oh, absolutely. And the way you just described that with your siblings just reminds me of this prayer that somebody is in the middle of where they're like, God, why are you letting me fall down right now? You carried me in the past. Well, you're never going to learn to walk,
Right.
And it's just the way, that's the only way to truly learn something is to get out and do.
Right.
I used to be the biggest analysis paralysis person in the world and kill that dragon. Just
Oh,
just
yeah.
put a sword right in it and just go and be smart, but go and do.
I that's something. So I've got a small list of things that I'm just like, oh, let's improve Nick as a person. Let's see what we can do. And that's what I call it, decision paralysis. And I've got so many options of things to do. Which direction do I want to take this? What do I want to do? That I will wake up 3 months later and realize, oh my God, I've been thinking about this decision for this thing that doesn't matter. What I compare it to, and I've done a number of podcasts on a number of different categories. I've done business podcasts. I've done podcasts about a game I like to play, all sorts of stuff. And I've somehow managed to circle back around to this like once a month for the past like 5 years is Minecraft.
Almost like somebody's tapping you on the shoulder.
Well, it's
Yeah.
but it's a silly example of Minecraft. So I don't know how familiar you are with it. It's a block building game. You do whatever you want in the game. But what I'll do is something really stupid. I'll plop in and I will find myself spending 3 hours just walking aimlessly looking for the perfect house to build or the perfect spot to build a house.
Okay.
Which, by when you build a house and you're happy with it, oh yeah, it did turn out good. But then you realize, oh man, I spent 3 hours, and I've lost 3 hours worth of progress and 3 hours worth of fun in real life, whatever it is. And who knows what have happened in that 3 hours, and this is, you can't one-to-one compare it, but in a business sense, say you and some nameless person that you don't know in the same city wants to start a bakery on this street. You spend 3 months, I have to perfect my recipe. I really need the perfect name, the perfect domain name, the perfect brand, whatever. Well, that person said, screw it, and they kind of went with whatever, and assuming that they didn't make a bad decision, they've got 3 months ahead of you. They've 3 months more experience, and it's just you got to just do things.
Well, and that's, yeah, I'm glad you started this podcast because there's so many business podcasts and so much business advice out there that tells you, well, make sure that you perfect your business card. Make sure you've got your LLC all lined out. Make sure you've got this. Make sure you've got that. And yeah, a lot of those things are very important. You do need to get them done. But stop trying to perfect everything before you get going. 'Cause
Right.
who cares if you have no customers? Good luck.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about with the ways you market. It's like everything can be perfect, but if if you're not doing it, if you're not, we were talking about marketing, about presenting yourself to people, but like I said, that 3 months that you're dwelling on it and not opening your doors and whatever is that's 3 months lost forever of zero business, 3 months of life gone.
Oh, I'll tell on myself. I've got one of my favorite list apps on the phone is To Do, and it's horrible because sometimes I don't get in there right away. And when you see an item on there that's been on there for 100 days, and you think about it like you just said, and you're like, oh wow, what would have happened if that happened 100 days ago?
Right.
Instead of sitting here trying to figure out how do I get more people's attention on Facebook or this or that, if I'd done that one small thing that would have leveraged everything. So you're going to have those moments, but
Right. Well, and this it's not a direct solution for it, but what you were talking about was, or earlier you were talking about cut the people who are against you out of your life. I'll take it a step further and find a way. Do it honestly, whatever. Don't do it kind of for your own gain, but surround yourself by people that maybe can't help you. That's what I was going to say, but that can are like-minded, are surround yourself with business owners that if you're going into business that can share with you and you can share with and you can rely on. I went so long without having a single business owner in my circle, in my friendship, whatever. And the day that I started befriending business owners that were real business owners that were actually doing things and that I could relate to and I could gripe to, and we go out for lunch and I could say, man, this thing sucked. You know, it's it really takes it out of you. The example I'll use is like, and again, I'm not saying cut this person out, but if you got a girlfriend or something that just doesn't understand business, doesn't get it, whatever, you'll go through the spiel about, man, my day sucked. This thing happened, and the response you'll always get 100% of the time is, man, that's it, and that's where it stops. And it's like, fuck, like that doesn't help me at all. Like
Yeah. I need more.
right. Well, and, you surround yourself by these people, and to tie it into what you were saying about everyone says, oh, perfect this and that. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to do all this by yourself. But man, get somebody in your circle that's done it before. That's really there to kind of help you, and is a friend. It's not just a networking opportunity for you or them. And they'll kind of, it'd be hard to find a genuine friend that's also a business owner that isn't just desperate to help you.
Right.
That's been me. You can't casually mention a business idea to me, a silly invention or whatever, because the next day I'll come to you and I'll say, hey, here's the domain name you can buy. Here's how you get your hosting. Go to this website, register your LLC, file this patent. Like you can do it. You can do it today. And there's.
We're gonna have to talk afterwards. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just surround yourself by people that want to see you succeed and can relate to you. As best as you can.
Yeah, and I've always been a person that, regardless of the environment or the person, there's usually something good that you can harvest and, sift out of. So even if I don't agree 100% with somebody, but they've got something of value and we can make that exchange, I'm all in on that. And one of those examples is one of those other kind of, high, I don't want to say higher level, but not specific business podcasts, had a great statement where they said, you always want to have 5 people that are at the level that you want to get to, that are helping to lift you up. But then you also want to be that person, like you just said, that is looking for that 5 or so people down there that are trying to get to where you're at and that are serious about it. And you get that spider sense of who's full of it and who's really going to do it. And that's really what it is. I had the opportunity for about 5 years to work for a rather wealthy family, and I saw people that were content where they're at, but then I saw people in the family that were building new, exciting things, and they, like you said, they could not want to help people more. So anybody with these ideas of, I have no idea who Elon is as a person. I think he's probably pretty cool. I don't know who Bezos is. He's got a bad rep. That is not going to, neither one of those guys are who we think they are, because it's just a veil. So don't just automatically discount that people are not approachable. But I think some of the best advice too on that is make sure you're bringing some value too, and not just taking. But
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and like you said at the very beginning, it's like, just ask. You'd be surprised how much you can get by just asking. God.
I wish I'd have known that in high school with girls. I did not know.
Right. Well, yeah.
That's just, yeah.
In so many different aspects of my life, It's funny that you say that, because I've told that to people. Is like, you'd be amazed what you can get by asking. And it's, business relationships, go, if you have a hurdle in your business, it's a genuine hurdle and it's not a self-imposed thing. You can't afford the rent, you can't whatever. Go find somebody who has an empty building that's sat vacant for a year and say, hey, what if we do this share? What if you give me a break? What if, whatever. Like, the worst thing that'll ever happen is they'll say, nah, I can't do that. And then you're right back where you were, but you've kind of gained some sort of negotiation experience. And every time you do that, you level up your communication skills.
Absolutely.
And it can apply to anything. If you're trying to produce a product, quotes are an interesting thing. You go to a business for, a supply, a material or whatever. Everyone has wiggle room in everything they do. It's if something's too expensive and you're trying to do something and that's the only thing stopping you, there's nothing wrong with saying, well, hey, can you do better on it? Can you, whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to.
Right. But people I think people are just, afraid and nervous. I think it's nerves is what stops a lot of people from doing a lot of things. And it's, you just got to realize that it's kind of like you said, asking a girl out in high school. It's like, it's going to be really intense for a minute and it might suck for a second. And then right after it's done, you've either benefited from it or you are exactly where you were before. You get to walk away from that conversation and you're right back.
Nobody's walking you out on the street and putting a gun to your head. You're
right.
You're fine.
Right.
You're going to survive. Yeah.
Right. And you know, after the first couple of those, it's like driving a car for the first time or whatever.
Everything.
Yeah, it's nerve wracking the first couple times, and then it's fine. You learn that, oh, this is normal, this is okay, and that's when your business really starts to kind of excel because you become this negotiator and
And that brings something to mind for me, and I have to constantly reapply this to myself. So basically, what we're talking about is being afraid of a door shutting in your face. Go find something that you're the most terrified of, that you're the most uncomfortable with. For me, it would be, go take a job in a call center or something. I hate being on the phone. I don't want to cold call people, but probably a bad example. But find that thing that you're not comfortable with. Go kill that monster first, and then the rest of them start becoming like, okay, yeah, I can do that. That's not a big deal.
right, right. That was a lesson took me a long time to learn was that, you know, to make it sound really dramatic, like pain is temporary. Like it's, the stress, the anxiety, whatever it is, it's super temporary. It goes right away. It's and once you learn that like, oh, those things stopping the your own self-imposed blocks. Once you get past that, it's
And they're all imaginary. They're so
right.
I don't know if you're familiar with there's a former Navy SEAL, David Goggins, does ultra marathons, and he's just flat out proven. I mean, your mind is where it's at. You'll stop yourself with your mind, or you can just go beyond your limits. And I tend to believe a guy that runs 100 miles and the last like 15 of it has a torn hamstring. Like you can do crazy human things,
Right.
So asking for a lease, asking for this, those are kind of down here. So go shoot for one of those things that just terrifies the living hell out of you.
Right.
Get that off the list and build that confidence.
Right. We can easily, I don't know that you ever overcome it, but we are our own worst enemies. We're our biggest critics and we're the loudest person in our head or in our ear telling us not to do a thing. And it's, I don't think it ever really quite goes away. You always kind of have the thoughts or whatever, but it's once you learn that, oh, I can navigate this. Like I can play this, I can work with this. A lot of doors open, a lot of opportunities pop up and,
You're so right. It never goes away. I just had that conversation on the way here with my wife. I was like, just out of the back corner of your mind, still this little occasional imposter syndrome pops up, and you're like, get out of here. I got this. It's just, but it never just entirely goes away.
right. Yeah. And all the stuff that we're talking about right now, like that's I think the benefit of having a nice, like tight, relatable circle. Whether it's a mentor and you're actually outright telling this person, that's another thing you can just ask for is like, hey, teach me, please. Whatever. People are real business people who are doing real businessy stuff and they kind of eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. Get super excited to share wisdom and to educate and whatever. And that not always. Some people are antisocial, some people are very busy. I get it, but it's like with a hobby. I bet everyone on the planet has a hobby they really love. Whether it's a game they like to play or an instrument or whatever it is. If somebody comes to them and says, hey, this thing you like, it might even be yoga. Like, hey, I'm kind of curious about yoga. Like, I bet you light up and you say, man, I would love to tell you about yoga.
Oh, yeah, I'm I'm the introvert at the party that once you crack that can on whatever that is, I'm probably not going to shut up.
Right.
Like, yeah, you get super excited about it. You're like, okay,
Right.
let's do this.
Right. And surround yourself with those people and you'll find that your fears will go away because you'll have people who have experienced the things and they'll tell you like, dude, it's no big deal. Just, you're good. Do it.
And one thing I wanted to touch, I'm probably running your clock way over here, but our unfair advantage in our company is that we're husband and wife that can work together, be around each other all day, and it works for us. Some people can't imagine that. But even that being said, with what you were talking about, wanting to relate to that girlfriend at the end of the day about how bad this thing sucked, occasionally you get tired of, I'm sure she gets tired of hearing me talk about this thing and that. And that's why it's so valuable to have that other business owner. And for me, it's my cousin Dan out in Washington State. He owns a home inspection business, and then they opened a men's, hair salon right before COVID. So he's felt all that pain, and like the other day, just being able to talk to him and you think you're down here and he's like, no, you're fine. It's like, it's going to go away in a day or two. And having that person that you're not only calling, but they're checking in on you because they're invested in you. It's invaluable. And I need to do a better job of building that team, that circle of people honestly.
Tricky. This is something I gripe about a lot, like just privately, personally, to like people I talk to. Is it's hard to network with people. It's hard to network with people that are serious because every business owner, as you start to get into it, you realize for every one person that's actually doing it, there's 9 that are just BSing or putting on a show or won't actually ever do it or whatever. And trying, being out in the world looking for somebody to talk to, they've experienced those same things. So when you come to them and say, "Let's be buddies," I also have a business. They're going to say, "Ah, okay, heard it a million times." Yeah, networking groups. That's the thing I was actually going to gripe about.
Right.
Is like, you know,
I can't do it. Yeah.
well, it's because and I apologize if you take offense to this, you're probably part of a networking group that's awesome. My experience 100% of the time has been a bunch of people in these whatever tier of businesses you want to describe it as, consultants for a big giant company like pyramid scheme kind of things, and nobody cares who you are at all. They're there to talk about themselves, and while you're talking, they're looking at their phones and whatever, and which referrals, I get it. There's an element to it, but it's really hard to befriend those people who are serious and want to listen to you. So when you find them, try really hard to give them the time and to like let them know like, hey, I'm interested in you beyond what you can do for me, but for as a person.
Oh yeah. I think, and now that I think about it, I've got a bigger network than I just consciously think about. One of my friends is a bariatric surgeon. I don't like just talking about yoga with him. I like deep diving into what are you doing? What's going on with your business side of your practice and your life and everything else. It's just incredibly interesting. And then you get a student that's an attorney, and it's like those conversations just start to build there, and then you're invested in people. But yeah, I've never met anybody and had anything real at a networking group, and it's the opposite of my personality anyway. Grab the microphone for 5 minutes and shout, and that's just what Instagram feels like to me anyway. And I would accuse ourselves of it too, is that you're just there broadcasting. Everybody's broadcasting. They call it social media. I've been so hungry. Like I'll go to Google once a quarter and look, is there a new place where there's people really being social? Because yeah, you can find them in some of the groups and stuff on Facebook, but just people that'll deep dive and actually connect. And yeah, we got all these connections now. We've got the 5,000 friends or whatever, but nothing solid,
Right. Yeah, and it can be really, and that's again, it kind of ties into exactly what we're saying, but like it can be really depressing seeing that. It's like, wow, I can't relate to anybody, I can't find anyone who will help me, whatever. It's like, just keep at it. They exist. It's it sucks because the people. Let me compare it to Craigslist. So I play music, and we found we'd get on Craigslist, the musician section, to look for musicians. It took us a long time to realize that the people on the musician section looking for a band to join are not in a band for a reason. And you apply it to business. It's the people that are out there talking about their business all day, every day. And it's ironic. It's not lost on me that I'm having a podcast talking about business right now. But the people that are in Facebook groups or going to networking events, like the people you really want to befriend are the ones that are having enough success that they're not doing that. They're not wasting their time. They don't have time for it. Like they're the people that are just quietly running their businesses that you never see, you never talk to, which makes it really difficult to find them. But those are the kinds of.
Well, I think you nailed it earlier, though. You're going to find them. Go do something you enjoy. They're going to come in your orbit,
Right.
And instead of, because if you're coming at them in that business environment, like you said, they've got the armor up because they're like, time for somebody
Right.
that's not serious.
That's a good way to put it. Which again, it's like crappy advice to give to people, but it's like, oh man, go find a hiking group or something, a photography meetup group, whatever you like to do, and it's I keep comparing it to dating because I think business can be similar in a lot of ways. That it's it's a numbers game in a lot of ways, and you have to put you have to play to win. So you have to put yourself out there. You got to go talk to as many people as you can talk to, make friends. Have business cards, give out your whatever it is, your number, your Facebook, whatever. Just make as many connections as you can, because it's if every one out of 100 people is a business owner, like it's what we were talking about earlier. It's like you can't sit and expect things to happen. You can't expect to your business to succeed or to make valuable connections, and it's you just got to get out there.
Yeah, and I'll just keep doing this the whole podcast. I'll bring it back to yoga. It really is about balance. So you can't just sit, but you can't get so frantic that you look desperate, so there's balance there. And the thing you were just talking about, get out and join a hiking club? Absolutely, because the worst trap that I put myself in is where you're thinking about your business so much that you're not really getting anything done, but you're just spinning your wheels. Go do something else, and that person that you need to come in contact, or that call or that email, whatever that thing is going to come in. Take a break, be with your family, just, absolutely balance that piece. And I'm the worst that I call myself out on it all the time and check myself, and I'm like, okay, yep. And without fail, you'll run into that person that has the advice you need, doesn't even know they're delivering it to you sometimes. You'll that thing will happen while you leave it alone, and it's just it's hard because you do have to, like we said in the beginning, you've got to have the effort,
Right.
but you got to apply it in the right places, and that's hard to figure out.
Right. Well, and no amount of stress will change your future. You know,
Yeah.
it can, if you thrive on stress, whatever, it can change your future. It can affect it negatively. You can stress so much that you make a bad decision, or you burn out, or you blow up, whatever it is. But like, I just apply this to life in general. It's like when things upset me, it's like, man, being mad about a thing is never going to affect it.
Nope.
Let's drop it. Let's move on. Take a break. It's the balance. Find the things that you like, make time for them no matter what. Go relax, go, whatever it is, go play your game, go hiking, go to the pool, whatever it is that you like.
Fully embody your little weird thing. You like to make fly fishing lures, whatever, do it, and you're going to connect to people, or it's just going to happen. So.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we covered a lot of like really valuable points here, actually, kind of on accident.
Well, hopefully that's the way that the good stuff happens, right?
Right.
So.
Well, hopefully. But as far as you and your business and stuff, so and this sounds like the kind of dramatic ending question of, I was going to say, what's next, but, I guess what's next long term, and like what's next short term? Like what's your, you going to hire somebody? What's kind of immediately on your radar?
Immediately on our radar, we did bring in some teachers thinking they were going to bring their following. That didn't, not their fault at all, but just the climate we're in. Like things
Right.
are just kind of strange in the yoga community. Next thing for us is just surviving the cash flow game, so that means more private yoga clients for us, more personal training clients for us. But it's going to be really cool to see that whole thing flip where the business model, the numbers comparatively just go crazy the other way. And it's just staying dedicated and being able to show up, probably covering ground we already did, but I can't tell you how many classes I've showed up to and stayed through that there were no people. If you're not willing to do that, it's not going to be easy. So, what's next for us is looking at different ways to do things, really trying to make genuine connections to people, which is so hard right now. I think, there's a tactic, we'll talk about it again some other time on Facebook that I'm kind of trying out right now that feels like the most real and genuine thing that I've ever done on Facebook, which is saying something about doing anything on Facebook. So if that pans out, I'll let you know. But, we're going a couple of different directions on that, and just breathing and just not sitting back idle. It's so hard to describe that, but just leaning into it and knowing it's going to happen. Because our long-term goal, which you can find on our website, I think there's still a link to it. We have an agriculture background too, of sustainable restorative agriculture. Still have some sheep and a goat and a guardian dog. We pared down from 300 head at one point, but anyway, moral of the story, we're gonna build a yoga retreat on about 100 acres or so. It's gonna have that there. It's gonna have a farm to table restaurant. It's gonna have the bed and breakfast kind of situation going on. So we know. That's another great piece of advice I got from somebody is I can see the summit of Mount Everest way out there, and that's great. I know where I'm going, and then I've got to immediately look down. What's the next step? And then remember to pop back up. So, yeah, we're just leaning forward and just trying some new things, and just see what works.
Nice. And so remind everyone, who you are and what you do and where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm Brian. My wife Beth is the personal trainer. I'm the yoga instructor and photographer for the fitness photography. Also do a little bit of free nutritional counseling. We just give that out for free. But we're at Sunflower Studio in Southern Overland Park, 148 Metcalf. You can find us sunflowerstudiokc.com. Just go visit the website. Make me feel good about all those long, lonely hours at night, totally redesigning it from scratch because I had an idea.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, just come visit us. We've got a 5-day free trial for yoga for new students. You can come in and take as many classes as you want. That's something, if you believe in your products, pretty easy to do. So
Right. Oh, yeah.
just come see us or give us a call at 913-747-5325.
Nice.
My
Cool.
wife always answers the phone. That's not me.
Nice. There you go. Well, yeah. Anyway, thanks for sticking it out and watching, listening, whatever. Hang tight for the next one. Thanks.